It's Wednesday, September 3rd, 2025. Good evening and welcome to the daily happenings inside our federal machine. This is Spathon and it's time to plunge into the swamp. Jeffrey Epstein victims come forward and announced they will be releasing an Epstein list of their own because, quote, we know the names, end quote. And also the Department of Homeland Security just announced the largest ever seizure of precursor chemicals for methamphetamine, which totals an enormous 316,440 kilograms. And speaking of drug seizures, FBI Director Patel announced the FBI's seizure of 70 million fatal doses of fentanyl, as well as the indictment of 22 Chinese nationals and 3 Americans related to the bust. Federal agents arrested another 92 criminals in the D.C. area and confiscated 27 illegal firearms yesterday. And also, my representative in Congress, Paulina Luna, is leading the charge to ban insider trading for members of Congress. Her legislation has received bipartisan support, even from the Green New Deal maker herself, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. They spoke to the media today on the subject. Even my favorite Seattle leftist congresswoman, Miss Paulina Luna, even spoke at the podium. The Surgeon General of Florida has announced that each and every single vaccine mandate in the state is officially coming to an end. That includes the COVID vaccine and every other vaccine you can think of. And there's lots more that happened today, so we're just going to dive right in. And if you enjoyed the video, please give the video a like and also subscribe to the channel if you're kind enough to do so. I would really, really appreciate it. And also all the videos, or not all the videos, but all of the posts that I share today, whenever you decide to watch this, everything is within 24 hours. Most of these posts and articles were actually in the last 12 hours, but no more than 24 hours as of this recording. I got kind of a late start today, so I'm recording a little bit after 9 p.m., but I'm going to drop this as soon as I finish. I'm going to jump right on it, try to get it all done and uploaded and all finished by midnight. I know it's a lot later than I prefer, but yeah, anyway. So with Rep. Paulina Luna to lead with tonight, an overwhelming majority of Americans want to ban insider trading for members of Congress. Today, in a rare moment of bipartisan support, we introduced legislation to do just that. If leadership fails to bring the vote to the floor, we have a discharge petition prepped and ready to go. One way or another, we are determined to deliver this win to the American people.
Thank you for everyone for being here. As you know, the group behind us has been very vocal on this topic, and not to reiterate what Chiproy had stated, but I think it's 95% of Americans support this. I sometimes feel like an adjudicator in this job, so I guess I'll be the one to say that we've asked nicely for leadership to put this on the floor. If they don't,
we asked them nicely.
End a month. There is a discharge petition prepared and ready to go.
Good.
I think it's very clear where the White House stands on this. I don't speak for the White House, but the president has stated that he supports banning
100%.
this because it is corrupt. Frankly, the fact that members are getting, plus 600% returns on their investments is wrong.
That is so fucked up,
But more importantly, how could you ever be expected to represent your constituents when you're clearly worried about your pocketbook? And so that's why we're here today.
Absolutely.
Again, thank you to Representative Burke.
Yeah, because they're passing legislation that benefits their investments on Wall Street. Not everything, but a considerable amount of stuff that they're passing, which benefits these giant companies that they're invested in. Look at Nancy Pelosi's profile. All those companies, I bet you could track along those stocks that her husband purchased. I bet you could track those right along legislation that was passed directly benefiting the hell out of each and every one of those companies. And that's giving the companies a leg up. That's actually representing the companies and not representing your constituents.
Because he helped work on that discharge, but we are very hopeful that this will be brought to the floor in regular order, and we look forward collectively to deliver this win to the American people.
Well, I'm certainly glad I voted for her, and you're very welcome. Anybody who wants to see this bipartisan legislation passed and get stock trading and insider trading is really what it is, banned on the floor in Congress. From Watcher.Guru, just in, Congressman Tim Burchett calls for nationwide stock trading ban on U.S. politicians. And they give a quote, but let's just play the
everybody knows
video.
I make these crazy skateboards.
It's a little
people
loud.
asking, hey, sell me a skateboard.
Ooh,
So I said, well, let me go check it out with ethics. I literally got to get attorneys involved to sell a dadgum skateboard. But if I want to do insider stock trading, just get elected to Congress.
Motherfuckers.
Really. I mean, let's just be honest. Look, everybody ought to do like I do. Get their $12,000 portfolio in a mutual fund. Let my buddy Tommy Seiler handle it. He does pretty well. Although my daughter's going to school now, so I'll be cashing that out very soon.
She ought to be looking for a husband, sir.
We're stewards of the community. Nobody's above the law. You hear that? It's kind of become cliche up here.
Don't put her in leftist university.
But for years, members of Congress, we know they've gotten rich using hardworking American taxpayers' money. Members sit on committees. We attend private meetings where we gain privileged information about companies. Congress appropriates money to economic sectors that may overlap with members' own portfolios.
Yep, I
call it the war pimps a lot. I worry about us voting on wars that we're going to send our kids off to that we couldn't even find on a dadgum globe.
Oh, yeah. And some of those companies, members of Congress, are invested in. And it just kind of makes you wonder, how in the hell was this legal the entire time? Like, I don't know, like Lockheed Martin or Raytheon or whatever the military weaponry contractors are out there. Members of Congress are probably invested in those companies, and they buy up right before, let's say, a Ukraine and Russia situation or really anything.
And members haven't owned stock in those things. The American taxpayer always gets the short end of the stick, and Congress seems to profit at their expense. This body has been enriching itself on the taxpayer's dime, and dadgummit, it's got to stop.
Dadgummit.
The president's already said he would sign a bill banning stock trading for members of Congress if passed. I think the real test is going to be whether Congress has the guts to stand up and do what's right.
I bet they won't. How much you want to bet that they're going to try and stonewall this as much as they can? For them to try to pass this legislation right now is a very smart move, if not outright genius, because next year we have the midterms to worry about. And if they refuse to get this onto the floor, anybody who's running against them, they really just, they've got the perfect campaign messaging to put out to the American people, in their constituency at least. So I really hope that this hits the floor. Speaker Mike Johnson, why the fuck wouldn't you do this? Why would you hold on to this and not allow this to actually get passed? Because they're absolutely right. I would say any American who even pays a little bit of attention to politics, they know that insider trading is a thing, and it's been a thing for a long time. And look, just most recently, just yesterday on the show I did, Rep. Ilhan Omar, she's now worth $30 million. Apparently it's not directly through stock trading. Has to do with her husband and his political activism working for progressive companies. And now he's got some like consulting business regarding political affairs that are like 60 companies are invested in, like $60 billion worth. And the company is not even 2 years old. It started off with only $1,000 and now they got over $60 billion. I mean, come on, man. I mean, they're so fucking corrupt, man. All of them. No, well, not all of them, but way too many of them are. All right, so this is from ACYN. AOC, if anybody says, quote, "This isn't fair. I'm going to have to divest all my stocks if I run for Congress. Maybe you should stay home." I haven't seen this. I am very interested in to hear what AOC has to say. So this is a short clip. I have a longer one here, so I'm not sure if it overlaps. So I figured I'd just play the shorter one first. So let's see.
You guys jump in.
No, I mean,
Ocasio-Cortez.
Says, this isn't fair. I'm going to have to divest all my stocks if I'm going to run for Congress.
Well, it ain't fair.
Maybe you should stay home. I think that, as someone, I ran for office, I was a waitress, plenty of people have to make tons of sacrifices to run for office. But I think that really the idea that this is some undue burden is outrageous. And the fact of the matter is, respectfully and...
All right, well, my rep actually got me to agree with Ocasio-Cortez on something. I could not... I couldn't fathom that even being remotely possible, but it happened. This is 2025. We're in some strange times. So from C-SPAN, Rep. AOC on Restore Congress Act, banning members of Congress from stock trading. Let's give this a play.
Introduce my friend Cortez.
All right, so this might be her full
Thanks, Cortez.
commentary, speech, whatnot.
Good afternoon, everyone. Hope everyone's doing well. I got to say, I know it was... what was it, like 6 or 7 years ago now, Chip, that you and I were elected here, and one of the first conversations that Representative Chip Roy.
All right, well, Lex ain't liking that. I'm gonna have to make it smaller. Fuck's sake.
Just in general, and you know, I think that this issue has brought so many of us across the political spectrum together because we are united by the value
there we go.
that
That's
people
much better.
should feel that their elected representative puts them and their interests first, and that we are here first and foremost to do the job that the public has sent us to do. And, you know, in many ways, I feel like this press conference and this podium shouldn't necessarily be facing out here. I don't think we need to sell the American people on this. We need to be turning it around and making sure that we get this thing past the post. And I want to thank Congressman Roy for the effort you've put in this Congress specifically to move this forward. And every year we've been getting closer, and I do believe, as we said, that this year we're going to get the vote. And I also want to thank Brian Fitzpatrick as well for, here you go, for some of the work that we've done in co-sponsoring our original bill on this. But it's very rare, I feel, in Washington that when we bring multiple stakeholders and folks together to negotiate on a bill, that you leave that room feeling like the bill got better. A lot of times it feels like we'll get to an agreement and we're holding our nose to get something past the post. But I genuinely feel in this process that in putting all of our bills together, we've actually ended up with a product that is legitimately stronger than the sum of its parts. And it is one of those rare moments where I feel like Washington is working the way that it's supposed to work, and it feels foreign and it feels alien, and it's like, what's going on here? But I also think it is proof that
that's actually true.
That things can work here. And when we put our disagreements aside, of which, of course, there may be many, but we focus on the things that we have in common, we can make our country better. We can make this institution better.
We can make America great again, right?
Come on, AOC. And earn
the
faith of the American people, which is really genuinely the core of our work here. And so to that end, I want to thank everyone for their incredibly hard work. We are going to get this done. It requires standing up against the powers that be, but because of the support of the American people on this issue, you all have generated the momentum necessary to give us the power to be able to do this. And I look forward to bringing this to a vote. I look forward to banning the trading of individual stock on the floor and by members of Congress.
Amen.
And,
all politicians.
And I'm looking forward to making this place a better place that puts the American people first. So thank you all
Absolutely.
so much.
Amen, dude. Amen. I cannot believe I actually agree with AOC on something. I agree with Democrats on something. And I'm sure almost all conservatives, or at least all of them, should absolutely agree with this. And not only should they be passing this on the federal level, the states should also give this serious consideration. I'd be curious to know if there are any states out there that already have the banning of insider trading on the House floor in individual states. I bet there's probably at least one state out there where they've banned insider trading on the state level, because there's companies, they got to operate in one state at least, if not multiple states. So I'm sure that happens just as much on the federal level as it does on the state level. I'm sure there's a lot of people insider trading down on the state level with the state reps and the state senators and all that. So Chip Roy, there is now a broad coalition united to ban congressional stock trading. The American people are with us. Let's pass this legislation and get it to the president's desk ASAP.
Got everybody? All right. Well, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us here
that
today.
Was loud.
Today's a really important day.
Ow!
We have the opportunity before us to answer the mandate given to us by the American people who respect banning stock trading in Congress.
He's got a strong voice, man.
We should not waste time. I want to start off by saying how much
from
I
Texas,
appreciate
that's
this
why.
bipartisan group of members. We've
Everything's
been meeting
big in
regularly
Texas.
over the last however many months, frankly, maybe years, trying to work to get consensus. I'm proud to have worked with
There's Jay Powell right there.
I'll turn it over to in a minute, who I've been working with since
I think she's next.
Abigail Spanberger left. She and I introduced legislation 5 years ago on this topic, as you all know.
5 years ago, man. Jeez.
And we've been trying to move this along. That bill.
Okay, so I must have misspoke. I thought Rep. Paulina Luna was the one who launched this bill. Maybe she launched the most recent iteration of it, or maybe I don't even know. I believe that I read somewhere that she was essentially the individual, like the the person with the most muscle behind this current bill that they're working to pass it. But I might have misspoke. I mean, they're obviously all co-sponsoring it together, so they all have equal weight behind this bill. But it's so nice to see that Republicans and Democrats are actually working on something, and that Democrats are actually working on something that's not nonsensical. Like, this makes absolute perfect sense, and this should have been done like a fucking century ago, man.
In Congress, the original Trust Act has a significant number of co-sponsors, but what we've decided to do is take the multiple bills that are represented by folks on this dais, bring it together into one bill, and speak with one united bipartisan voice.
So she must have had her own version of it.
It is time for the leadership of Congress on both sides of the aisle to do what the American people have been demanding, which is to end day trading by members of Congress. They do not send us here to enrich ourselves while we are voting on the issues. They send us here to fix and address, and then have members who are trading stocks on the very issues they're supposed to be voting on.
Before they even vote,
basis,
knowing that they're going to vote for it.
People. So we're going to have filed today. We have just
make it retroactive.
A bill that we're calling the Restore Trust in Congress Act, and that legislation, which I'll let
some of these people in jail
a little bit more in detail, takes the best elements of all of our legislation, puts it together to restrict and limit and ban trading of stocks by individual members of Congress. Now, it retains the ability of members of Congress to have their funds in
he reps Kerrville. That's where that bad flood happened.
Of Congress to be able to work through under the rules to do that, but they should not be trading equities, and they should not be enriching themselves on the very issues that they're voting on. We have Capital Trades, for example, reports that 113 members of Congress made 9,261 trades in 2024 involving 706 million shares of other assets.
Oh my freaking God, dude.
That's not why people sent us here to Washington.
Absolutely
there are 330
insane.
million Americans. There are 435 of us. If you want to day trade, leave Congress.
Absolutely.
If you come up here with the trust of the American people, do your job, vote to deliver for the American people. I would note that Speaker Johnson has said that he supports banning trading of stocks among members of Congress.
Yeah, well, I'll believe it when I see it.
Has said he supports it.
I'll believe it when I see it.
Secretary Besant has said that he supports it. And vast numbers of both sides of the aisle support.
What about the majority whip? What's his name? Does he support it too?
The House Committee on Administration should consider this bill, move the bill forward, amend it, go through regular order, but deliver it quickly to the floor of the House. But we're going to get...
And look, AOC, she might be a freaking idiot on just about everything, but she's a member of the squad, and apparently they've got a lot of power on the Democrat side. And when they're polling individual Democrat voters across the country, they're consistently saying that AOC is the leader of the Democratic Party. When you ask everyday, just average voting Democrats, that's the name they keep throwing out. They keep saying that she is essentially the leader of the Democratic Party. So for her to co-sponsor this, I would really like to know how many Democrats that she has on her side. I don't know if she's going to come out and say it or not. I don't know if that's really how they do things. Probably not, but I would really be curious to know.
They vote on this. This is a non-debatable proposition. We're going to get a vote on this.
Yeah, it's common sense, man.
We're calling on leadership to use regular order to deliver, but it is past time to deliver, and this bipartisan group are standing united to say that that's what we should do. With that, I would like to turn it over to Seth Magaziner, who's led this initiative on the other side of the aisle alongside me with the Trust Act.
All right. Well, I'm not sure if I have him or not. I don't believe I do. No, I don't have his speech, but I do have J-Pal. I do have hers. So let's listen to her.
The simplest thing.
See if I can full screen this.
People want, which is to know.
God, dude, what's going on with X tonight, man?
Represents them and not their own pocketbooks. And that's really what this is about. Brian talked about insider trading and the information we get. We also should know that people are taking votes on issues where they're not thinking about their own stock portfolio. At the core, this is really about public trust. And public trust right now in government is at an all-time low.
In the toilet.
And there's a good reason for that, because people don't know who we represent. So let's make this really, really clear.
Most of y'all don't represent us.
This bill gets around many of the loopholes that existed before in some of the other pieces of legislation. There's real accountable fines here.
Good. I mean, not just fines, man. It's got to be more than that. That if they're engaged in insider trading, it's got to be a fucking felony. It has to be something that's really going to hold them accountable, instead of some like, oh, well, you get a $10,000 fine for every $1 million that you get in capital gains from your stock trading. I really would like to read it. I'm gonna have to look this up and see if I can actually read this to see exactly what are the penalties, what are the fines. It should be actual criminal charges. It should 100% deter anybody in Congress from doing any kind of insider trading. What about me? If I get caught doing insider trading, whether if I'm a stock trader or if I'm just a regular civilian, what would be the penalty for me? I'm sure it would probably be a felony, would it not? And probably would have to do prison time, most likely, probably regardless of the amount of money that I earn, whether if it's like $1,000 or if it's $100 million. That's what they should be charged with, the equivalent, because they're everyday citizens too. They might be politicians, but in the eyes of justice, they're supposed to be held to the same level of accountability as everybody else, if not even higher, man. Politicians should be held at a higher standards because they're fucking lawmakers, for crying out loud. So, all right, well, that's the end of that. So we'll see what ends up happening with that. Hopefully it will stay in the news. I'm assuming because squad members are talking about it, I'm assuming the mainstream media is probably going to keep talking about it. At least I hope so. But only time will tell. I guess we'll have to see. I think they said something about over the next month, and then they're going to move forward with other plans if they can't get it to a floor vote. So yeah, man, it's going to be exciting if they can get it to a floor vote, because we're really going to want to know who's voting against it, because some people are absolutely going to probably vote against it. And it's probably going to be the end of their political career, which if they vote against it, you're basically not doing any good service to yourself, because you're not going to be able to take much advantage of it when you don't get reelected next year, because everybody in the House, they're up for reelection next year. All right, so let's move on to FBI Director Kash Patel. Today's takedown is the FBI's first of its kind international operation against the fentanyl plague. We indicted 22 Chinese nationals, 4 chemical companies, and 3 Americans. They also seized enough fentanyl to kill 70 million Americans, as well as 270,000 more in pills. So what is that? 70,270,000 Americans worth of pills that they had confiscated. The supply chain ends here. FBI's Operation Box Cutter indicts 22 Chinese nationals and companies for fentanyl precursors. Director Kash Patel says the seizures included enough fentanyl to kill over 70 million Americans. So I don't think... Let me check. Sometimes he'll put the link below. Yeah, it looks like he did. Okay. Yeah, so here's the link to the article on foxnews.com. And let's take a look at least some of this article here. Actually, matter of fact, how long is this? Maybe I'll just play the video. Oh, join Fox News for access to this content. Well, fuck you. All right, so FBI is targeting the fentanyl supply chain at its source, and a recent operation led to the indictments of 22 Chinese nationals, 4 China-based chemical companies. I thought it was 3, but it's 4. 4 China-based chemical companies and 3 Americans. Quote, "We're done playing whack-a-mole," FBI Director Kash Patel said during a news conference on Wednesday in Cincinnati, adding that no other country besides the U.S. has a fentanyl crisis. Dubbed Operation Box Cutter, it has resulted in the seizure of enough fentanyl powder to kill 70 million Americans and enough fentanyl pills, okay, there it is, to kill another 270,000, Patel said in a statement. Well, dude, look, the main reason why there's no crisis, fentanyl crisis in any other country except for ours, because China, they have the second largest economy in the world, and China's been pretty clear. They want to push America aside, and they want to become the supreme leader. They want to be the leading superpower in the world. And this is an actual war, man, where almost 100,000 Americans are being killed by China each year. It may not be them directly, but it's certainly them by proxy at the very least. So the investigation started in Dayton before expanding all the way to mainland China, where chemical companies were openly marketing and selling dangerous precursor substances used to cut and manufacture fentanyl, cocaine, and heroin, according to a news release. Dude, how are we not fully declaring war against China for this shit? If this were to happen, imagine if the Soviet Union was pulling this shit like in the 1950s or 1960s. Do you think that we would declare war against them? Maybe not, because it's one massive nuclear power against another. But I mean, you get where I'm trying to get at with that. So today's takedown marks the FBI's first of its kind international operation targeting the fentanyl plague that has killed tens of thousands of Americans, indicting the companies and individuals in mainland China that manufacture the precursors, fueling the destruction of our communities, Patel's statement said. We have indicted Chinese precursor companies and exposed their bank accounts and cryptocurrency pipelines and funded sources that facilitate this deadly trade, his statement concluded. So there's a little bit more well, you know what? There's only a little bit, so I'll just wrap it up. So the 4 Chinese companies indicted include Huangzhou Tingyi Chemical Company, and then Guangzhou Wanjiang Biotechnology Company, and Hebei Hongjun New Material Technology Company, and Hebei Philimi Technology Company Limited. An FBI spokesperson confirmed to Fox News Digital. Dude, I nailed those, man. Said perfectly for the win. Epic Pain of Tip City is accused of buying cutting agents from Chinese companies and distributing them to dealers. His significant other, Ariane Treason Rayford, would then allegedly transfer cryptocurrency to the companies. Ciandria Byron Davis, who is not from Ohio, is accused of helping transfer funds, according to TV station WCPO. So, wow, fucking wow. All right. What do we got next? I think we have the big one next as far as the drug bust. From the U.S. Attorney, D.C., Janine Pirro, this operation marks the largest seizure ever by U.S. law enforcement of chemicals used to produce methamphetamine. The chemicals, which originated in and were sent from China, dude, fucking China again, could have been used to produce nearly 190,000 kilos of methamphetamine. The finished product, imagine that, almost 200,000. I mean, we're getting close to 250,000 kilos worth of methamphetamine. That is insane. And that would be worth about $569 million if they had reached their intended destination. Instead, agents seized 6 shipping containers of benzyl alcohol, a solvent used in the manufacture of pharmaceuticals, weighing 164,880 kilos, and 6 shipping containers of N-methylphoramide, another liquid organic solvent, weighing 151,560 kilograms. Good Lord, man. So I will link this in the description if you want to read the details on this bust. And this will be coming from justice.gov. So if you want to check the description to read the details, you go ahead and do so. It starts with justice.gov down in the description. All those links I got down there for you. So here's an image of the side of one of the oil barrels, or whatever they call it, oil drums, or whatever you want to call it. We got more pictures from U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement. Operation Hydra resulted in the seizure of approximately 316,440 kilograms of chemical precursors destined for a Sinaloa drug cartel-operated front company in Mexico. Acting ICE Director Todd Lyons spoke about ICE's role in the most successful meth-related operation in our nation's history. Look at this shit. Look at all that. That is fucking nuts, dude. We got to declare war against China. All right, the gloves are off. All bets are off. This is attempted murder against millions and millions of Americans. I mean, there's no other way that you can view it. That's exactly what they're trying to do. They're trying to get almost basically the entirety of the United States to get hooked on dangerous drugs that kills people if they take just a little bit too much of it, namely fentanyl. I know most of this is destined to make methamphetamine, but methamphetamine's deadly too. Turns you into a fucking skeleton. I mean, they use chemicals more or less that you could find under the sink to make this shit. And yeah, man, this is a declaration of war as far as I'm concerned. I cannot believe that we're going to let China just skirt, or we're going to let them just skirt past this. It's unfucking, like, look at this, man. It's like the fucking Indiana Jones warehouse full of these fucking barrels of methamphetamine precursors. Insane, man. Fucking sane. All right. So let's see. Missed delivery from FBI Houston. Shipment 660,000 pounds of drug precursors, enough to produce 13,200 pounds of meth worth $569 million. And the recipient was supposed to be the Sinaloa cartel, which is a foreign terrorist organization, and it came from China. And the reason for non-delivery, the largest precursor chemical seizure in U.S. history by HSI, FBI, and other federal partners. Now here's a few more images. And there's Judge Janine Pirro. I know she's U.S. Attorney Janine Pirro now. And yeah, an entire warehouse, man, full of this. I'm going to be curious to see how Trump reacts to this when it comes to dealing with China. They have got to pay for this one way or another. I mean, this is so fucked up that they had tried to get that much delivered to the Sinaloa cartel to produce virtually 100% of that was going to be used for drugs that they were going to attempt to flood into the U.S. market. All right. And look, man, we even got Rob Schneider. It's not related to the drug bust, but I found something from Rob Schneider. I have prayed to God for this medical tyranny to please come to an end. And in Florida, my prayers have been answered. Hashtag no vaccine mandates. Check this out from Eric Daugherty. Major breaking. The Surgeon General of my state of Florida has just announced all vaccine mandates in Florida will be ended. And the room erupted. All, not just COVID, all. And then they have a quote from Joseph Ladapo, and I'm just going to just let him say it himself.
What I'm most excited about is an announcement that we're going to make, that we're making now, which is that the Florida Department of Health, in partnership with the governor, is going to be working to end all vaccine mandates in Florida.
Amen. Let's
All
fucking go.
All of them.
Yeah.
All of them.
It's my body, my choice, right, Democrats? My
Every
body,
last
my
one of
choice.
them. Yeah.
Woo! End the vaccine mandates.
Yeah. Every last one of them. All of them.
Every last one of them. Every motherfucking last one of them.
Every
Man, the room did erupt, didn't it?
Every last one of them is wrong and drips with disdain and slavery. Okay?
I mean, basically,
who
yeah.
am I as a
Forcing you to do something you don't want to do.
Or anyone else, or who am I as a man standing here now to tell you what you should put in your body?
Amen.
Who am
I can't hear you, Democrats.
to tell you what
you
your
know
child
Democrats are against
should
this.
put in your body? I don't have that right. Your body is a gift from God.
Yes. Trust the immune system that God gave you.
You put into your body, what you put into your body is because of your relationship with your body and your God. I don't have that right. Government does not have that right.
Nope. You sure shit
They
don't.
want you to believe they have that right. And unfortunately, they've been successful. They've been successful.
Oh, I love it, man. I freaking love it. Look at that, 7.3 million views going viral. That is such an awesome moment. What a white pill. At the same event, Governor Ron DeSantis was announcing the creation of the Florida Maha Commission. Hell yeah, man. Let's go, dude. What a great time to be a Floridian. Breaking, Governor Ron DeSantis announced the creation of the Florida Maha Commission, which is going to ensure Florida enacts the Robert F. Kennedy Jr. touted policies on health and medical freedom in the Sunshine State. Surgeon General Joseph Ladapo will be on it. Quote, the Florida Maha Commission will recommend state-level integration of the Make America Health principles. Let's go. Let's see. See what DeSantis says here.
Today to make the first announcement, and Joe Ladapo is going to make another announcement. But today I'm pleased to announce the establishment of the Florida Maha Commission as a working group which will recommend state-level integration of these Make America Healthy principles. And those principles are, as I mentioned, individual medical freedom, informed consent, parent rights, and also market innovation. It will be chaired by First Lady Casey DeSantis and our Lieutenant Governor, Jay Collins, and will also include Surgeon General Joe Ladapo, ACA Secretary Siobhan Harris, DCF Secretary Taylor Hatch, Elder Affairs Secretary Michelle Branham, Department of Environmental Protection Secretary Alexis Lambert, as well as experts in the fields of nutrition, health, vaccine safety, and family practice. The commission will have several main objectives, including, and Joe Ladapo does a good job on this, promoting clean, safe, and nutritious food industry, improving transparency and accountability in healthcare, working on the causes of chronic diseases to identify and prevent future occurrences, and, maybe more importantly, restoring trust in the medical profession and in public health. The Florida Maha Commission will prioritize reforms that empower Floridians, reduce regulatory burdens, and hold actors accountable for their conduct while fostering incentives for healthy living and innovation. And
dude, I wonder if that's going to open up the door for Floridians to sue Big Pharma who got injured with the COVID vaccines. I wonder if that's going to be in any way possible or not.
I think that this is something that has great potential. We've already done a lot, and I don't think there's any state that has done even close to what we've done in the state of Florida over these many years. But there's always more to do. We always want to stay ahead of the curve. And I know Joe
Dude, like Ron DeSantis has been a hell of a good governor, man. He did a great job during COVID. He did too good of a job during COVID because the housing market completely exploded in value. And I mean, like he rolled out constitutional carry, not full constitutional carry, but we can now conceal carry anywhere in the state, anywhere we damn well please. And now we don't have to have the government's permission to do so. And that was thanks to Governor DeSantis. So yeah, man, he's all right in my book. That's for damn sure. He didn't do... he kind of fumbled up his presidential candidacy. I don't know why the hell he even ran for president last time. I mean, whatever. But anyway, so we're going to move on to the next thing here from Tom Emmer. Tim Walz is a complete and total failure. If only he put as much effort into solving Minneapolis's crime crisis as he does railing against Republicans.
He was literally blaming Republican rhetoric
God,
for the assassination of, even though she was a Democrat, our friend Melissa Hortman and her husband. It could not be more damaging what this guy does, and he's exacerbated the mental health crisis in Minnesota. He's exacerbated the anti-law enforcement, out-of-control crime in Minnesota. It's got to end. And the good news is Donald Trump is showing everyone. Not only did he campaign on making America safe again, but now he is showing everyone, starting with the District of Columbia, there is a way to fix this.
Dude, like today is a hell of a day with regard to news, dude. So many things are happening. So this is from Caroline Levitt, for example. Trump's DHS secures deals with more than 900 police departments to help arrest criminal illegal aliens. This comes from Breitbart.com. And let's get into it. So President Donald Trump's Department of Homeland Security is continuing to secure deals with hundreds of local police departments and sheriff's offices to help Immigration and Customs Enforcement agents arrest criminal illegal aliens. This week, DHS announced a more than 600% increase in the agency's 287G agreements with local law enforcement agencies across American communities. The agreements allow local police to seamlessly identify criminal illegal aliens in their jails and prisons and swiftly turn them over to ICE agents for arrest and deportation. When Trump took office in January, there were just 135 police departments and sheriff's offices that had 287G agreements with ICE. Today, almost 960 law enforcement agencies have such agreements to help ICE agents arrest illegal aliens. Even more, DHS Secretary Kristi Noem announced new initiatives to entice hundreds more police departments and sheriff's offices to sign 287G agreements, mainly by reimbursing such agencies for salaries and benefits of officers helping ICE and offering quarterly monetary performance awards. That is awesome, dude. ICE Deputy Director Madison Sheehan said the initiatives are all thanks to Trump's One Big Beautiful Bill. ICE is not only supercharging our hiring, we are also multiplying partnerships with state and local law enforcement to remove the worst of the worst, including murderers, gang members, rapists, terrorists, and pedophiles from our country, Sheehan said in a statement. And she continued, thanks to the One Big Beautiful Bill, ICE launched a new reimbursement program for state and local law enforcement who partner with DHS to make America safe again. We encourage all state and local law enforcement agencies to sign a 287G agreement now. By joining forces with ICE, you're not just gaining access to these unprecedented reimbursement opportunities, you're becoming part of a national effort to ensure the safety of every American family. That is freaking awesome, man. So that'll be linked below if you want to check out that article. And then we're going to move on to Homeland Security. The Trump administration has designated the cartels as foreign terrorist organizations, unlocking a whole-of-government approach to eliminate their trafficking operations in the U.S. Precursor chemicals used to produce methamphetamine and intended for the Sinaloa cartel labs in Mexico were seized this week by HSI agents. Had these chemicals reached their destination, they could have produced $569 million worth of methamphetamine. I should have included this a little higher up. My apologies. It's a little bit out of order.
Federal authorities making another big announcement today regarding drugs coming into the U.S.
Yeah, seems like we're seeing more and more of these big drug busts, right? Multi-agency effort here on this one. Just moments ago, the federal authorities saying that they had the largest law enforcement bust of precursor chemicals that were headed to a foreign terrorist organization. So it was a multi-agency effort, as I mentioned, seizing 2 shipments of precursor chemicals linked directly to the Sinaloa cartel. So the chemicals originated in China. They made their way to Mexico. Nearly 700,000 pounds of those precursor chemicals were slated to make 420,000 pounds of meth. That value would have been about $569 million. Judge Janine Pirro saying that the Sinaloa cartel is producing 1 ton of meth each and every week. On display behind them, 1,300 barrels filled with those precursors. The judge saying it will take 24 18-wheelers to transport those barrels to a secure storage facility. The acting ICE director also noting the importance of that bust. Take a listen.
Had these precursors made it to their destination, they would have made hundreds of thousands of pounds of methamphetamine with profits of over $500 million, which would lead to more American deaths here, not only in Houston, but all across the country.
I want to make sure that you look at those 1,300 barrels, and I want you to have a visual of dead Americans instead of where those barrels
Absolutely. That's what I'm saying. Absolutely.
Okay, so Nicole, the Sinaloa cartel also designated as a foreign terrorist organization under the Trump administration, so that allows them to move and strike quicker and seize those
we need to wipe them out like ISIS. Wipe them all out.
Assets not on U.S. territory. Nicole.
All right, Allie Bradley live there in Del Rio. Thank you.
Oh, well, man, whether they're on U.S. territory or not, a lot of them are on U.S. territory. But either way, we got to take them out like we took out ISIS. And look, I was a little bit extreme as far as like a declaration of war against China. I know how catastrophic that would be, both financially, and it would probably be a full-on bloodbath. But we need to seriously ramp up, whether if it's sanctions or some kind of real damaging penalties against China for doing this shit, because this is appalling, man. Over 1,000 barrels worth of precursor materials to make drugs. I mean, like Janine Pirro, I'm sure even she's trying to find a way to address the level of seriousness that really is. I mean, there is no way that this can or should be downplayed in any way, shape, or form. Just, it's so fucked up, man. All right, so let's move on to defense news. A little bit of a segue. The multi-year contract is the largest in the history of Lockheed Martin's missiles and fire control businesses. Yeah, speaking of war, from defensenews.com, it's almost as if they got some plans, maybe against China or maybe against the Sinaloa cartel. Not so sure. Probably not, but you never know. The U.S. Army awarded Lockheed Martin a $9.8 billion multi-year contract to produce nearly 2,000 of the most advanced variant of the Patriot air and missile defense missile. The service announced in a Wednesday joint signing ceremony at Lockheed's Grand Prairie, Texas facility. The contract marks the largest deal in the history of the company's missiles and fire control unit. The agreement covers the fiscal years 2024 through 26 and calls for the procurement of 1,970 Patriot Advanced Capability 3 missile segment enhancement interceptors and associated hardware for the U.S. and allies, according to the service's statement. So, a lot of missiles, man. A lot of missiles, a lot of weaponry. Hopefully, it'll just sit on the shelves for a really long time. But I don't know, man. Things are getting a little wild these days. So let's move on to another hard segue with regard to the Jeffrey Epstein situation. A crazy day today, man. Like, a lot of shit was happening today. This is from Shadow of Ezra, posted about 11 hours ago. This was this morning, sometime I think it was around like 10, maybe 10:30 this morning, give or take. Epstein's victims have declared they will release the names of his clients independently without any government involvement. Dude, they would be nothing short of freaking heroes if this actually happens. They said they've had enough and will expose every single client they know. Holy shit.
And let me announce now, several of us Epstein survivors have been discussing creating our own list of names.
Oh, man. Let's go, man.
We know
All
the
about
names. Many of us were abused by them.
Give us a sneak preview.
Now, together as survivors,
Give us a couple.
we will confidentially compile the names we all know were regularly in the Epstein world.
Wow.
And it will be done by survivors and for survivors.
Hell yeah, son.
No one else is involved. Stay tuned for more details on that. Because history is watching, and so are the women who will come after us. Thank you.
Absolutely. And some of these people that they're going to name are going to have the nerve to sue them for it too, because they're going to say, well, you better be able to back this up with actual evidence. You really want to take that to trial? I mean, yeah, good luck with that. So that's really going to be interesting, because I'm sure every name that they're going to name are probably some pretty powerful people. And we're moving on to the next one. Same subject, Aaron Parnas, the largest ever rally of Epstein survivors happening right now. And there's an image of them up on this makeshift stage and talking to the press. Essentially, the press, members of the public, I'm assuming, showed up. Now, this is from Democrats. 2 more Republicans. That's all we need to force the release of the Epstein files. Now, again, there's not a whole lot I agree with Democrats on, very little, in fact, and I can't even tell you the last time I even voted for a Democrat, even thought about it. But yeah, with regard to releasing the Epstein files, I think that should happen. I've already been vocal about that numerous times. I don't know why Pamela Bondi was bragging about releasing Epstein files, and then they just completely walked it back. And my conspiracy theory is probably with the Biden administration destroying all the pertinent evidence that they were able to release, and they spoke too soon. And I think that's probably what ended up happening, and they shot themselves in the foot. Now they got to eat it. So this is from Fact Post. Rep. Rokana, we are demanding today that all of the Epstein files be released. We have 212 Democrats and 4 Republicans. We need just 2 more signatures to force the release. So we gather here to confront these corrupt forces. Today we stand with survivors. We need to stand, we stand to protect America's children. I don't get why they're making it such a partisan issue on the Republican side. I just don't get it. They were so gung-ho with releasing it originally, and now they don't want to release it. That just boggles my mind. Is there something that I didn't catch? Something I didn't read? I don't really understand the issue here. Just release the fucking information already. Or else the survivors, or the victims, I think more appropriately they should be victims. I mean, they weren't, I doubt that attempted murder was inflicted on him, but I get it. I get what they're saying.
Today, as you can see, we're united in restoring trust in government. We're here not as partisans, we're here as patriots. We begin the work of bringing this country together.
I'm assuming he's oh no, never mind.
Independents, moderates, and yes, MAGA supporters to demand truth and justice. A nation that allows
Marjorie
rich
Taylor
and
Greene
powerful
right back there with
men
her blue dress on
to traffic and abuse young girls without consequence is a nation that has lost its moral and spiritual core. Americans are asking a very simple question. How is it possible that in the richest, most powerful country in the world, there are corrupt special interest forces, both foreign or domestic, that are preventing the release, that have a stranglehold on our government and are preventing the release
powerful people
of the
that
full
molested
Epstein files.
children, for fuck's sake.
There is something that
They're
is
being
rotten
protected
in Washington. Less than 1% of these
figure out
files
why.
have been released. We are demanding today on the discharge petition that all of the files be released. We know we have 212 Democrats, and we have 4 Republicans, courageous Republicans like Thomas Massey, Nancy Mace, who was so emotional yesterday after talking to the survivors.
Don't forget MTG behind you.
Congresswoman Boebert and Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor
There you
Greene.
go.
We need just 2 more signatures to force the release. So we gather here on the steps of the Capitol to confront these corrupt forces. Today we stand with survivors. We stand against big money. We stand to protect America's children.
I mean, seriously, if you know something that I don't, definitely leave a comment, because I really want to know why did Republicans just suddenly completely do a 180 on this issue? I honestly don't understand why, other than the possibility that the files were destroyed and there's no way that they can release it because there's nothing to release. But they already came out, you know, they shot their wad way too early and came out and said that they've got all the information and we're releasing it on Tuesday or whenever the hell it was, doing that stupid that press conference where the members of the press were holding the binders that said Epstein files. You remember that? That was like, I don't know, back in the spring. Absolutely ridiculous. And then they just come out and say, oh yeah, well, we're not going to do that, because there is no client list that Jeffrey Epstein had to blackmail people with. Okay, well, let's remove the blackmail part. We already know there was a client list because they already released the flight logs, if I'm not mistaken, or maybe I'm wrong about that too, but I'm pretty sure that they released flight logs. So we know who traveled there. So we basically already know what the client list is for the most part. We just want to see it official. And maybe he didn't have a specific list that he was using to blackmail individuals, but he did have a list, so at least release that. So, all right. So anyway, yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's going to be plenty in the comments with people arguing from both sides, which would be quite interesting to read, but I got a lot to get through. So this is from Molly Ploufkins. Marjorie Taylor Greene urges Republicans to vote for the Epstein Files Transparency Act.
Good morning. This is my 5th year in Congress, and this is the largest press conference that I've seen since I've been here. And this is because this is an issue that matters so much to Americans. This is an issue.
The Republicans don't have any reason to hold it back, though. Why, man?
That doesn't have political boundaries. It's an issue that Republicans and Democrats should never fight about. As a matter of fact, it's such an important issue that it should bring us all together. It's grieved me to watch the arguments and debates take place among my colleagues and even the administration. I think this is something that was worth fighting for. You see, the women behind me are going to tell you stories that you've never heard before. These are unimaginable horrors that they've lived with for their entire lives since they were very, very young. But these are also similar stories that many children, teenagers, women, and even men are enduring nightmares right now as we speak.
You know, that is, frankly, that's awesome that all of these victims came forward because it makes it real. It actually shows the world that, yeah, there were, I mean, there's not 1,000 of them here, but that's the number that I was told or that I read, that there were over 1,000 victims that were out there in Epstein Island. So for them to give this press conference and have actual faces out there, because they kept them classified. It was top secret. We weren't allowed to know any of the names. Not that anybody cared. We don't care about the names of the victims. We want the names of the powerful elites who were molesting them, who were raping minors, children.
You see, these women have been fighting since the 1990s. I heard one woman tell us yesterday since 1996.
Good Lord, man.
And they have carried with them shame. But I want to tell you something. The shame does not fall on these brave, courageous women. The shame falls on every single person that coldly turned a blind eye to their abuse. The shame falls on every single person that enabled it. The shame falls on every single person that took money to continue it. And the shame falls on the people in power over the past several decades that protected the monster, Jeffrey Epstein, and his cabal that continued a nightmare. Those people deserve the shame. And today, we are coming forward and we are going to fight like hell for these women, because we have to fight like hell for those that are enduring sexual abuse and are living in a prison of shame. Anyone that is being abused, it is not your fault. You should live with no guilt or fear or shame. All of the fault belongs to the evil people that do these things to the innocent. This is the most important fight we can wage here in Congress, is fighting for innocent people that never receive justice. And the women behind me have never received justice. And do you want to know why? It's because Jeffrey Epstein somehow was able to walk among the most rich, powerful people, not only in America, but foreign countries. Yesterday, I heard countries like Saudi Arabia, Russia, and even Israel, and other countries. The truth needs to come out, and the government holds the truth. The cases that are sealed hold the truth. Jeffrey Epstein's estate holds the truth. The FBI, the DOJ, and the CIA holds the truth. And the truth we are demanding come out on behalf of these women, but also as a strong message to every innocent child, teenager, woman, and man that is being held captive in abuse.
I mean, they might as well release the names at this point. They've got the victims on here on the stage telling the American public that they're ready to name names. What the hell do they have to hide at this point? We're about to find out the names one way or another.
This should never happen in America, and it should never be a political issue that divides us. And I want to thank Ro Khanna and Thomas Massie for doing something brave, crossing political boundaries for a very important fight. And I'm honored to join both of them. And I'm honored that Nancy Mace and Lauren Boebert signed the discharge petition along with myself. And I asked my Republican colleagues not to choose just one path for justice and transparency and accountability, but I asked my Republican colleagues to choose every path for justice and accountability and transparency. And with that, I'd like to bring back Congressman Ro Khanna to start this important press conference.
All right. So we got that. But ironically, I would bet that the release of these names would probably politically hurt Democrats more than Republicans, because it ain't the Republicans who are demanding that we don't discriminate against minor attracted persons. I mean, not all Democrats say that, but it's on the Democrat side who coined that term, minor attracted persons, which is just another way of calling someone a pedophile or a hebephile, technically speaking, I guess. All right, so from Fact Post, Epstein victim's lawyer, and it's a quote, so I'm just going to play it right off the bat. Hear what he says.
All of the documents and evidence that we have worked so hard to gather hide behind protective orders, confidentiality agreements, and bank secrecy laws. That is why this discharge petition is so important. While we have seen the documents, you haven't.
It's because, dude, it's going to disrupt a lot of everyday life for a lot of people, because look, man, these are very powerful people, I'm assuming, who are going to be named. And once they're named, is there statutes of limitations, or are these people actually looking at going to prison? And I don't care if they're running this company. I don't care if they're the heir to that company. I don't care if they have $400 billion worth of investments tied up here, there, or wherever. It doesn't fucking matter, dude. Justice is supposed to be blind in America, man.
When you see the documents, you're going to be appalled. And the American people deserve to see everything. When you sign this discharge petition, it should mean nothing is off limits. That means the documents in the possession of the CIA should be made available. Those in
long
possession
since
of the
torched
FBI
all that, I'm
going
sure.
back decades should be made available.
Ain't that what the CIA does?
Financial records in the possession of FinCEN should be made available. Everybody knows that evil flourishes in the darkness. Corruption flourishes in secrecy. It is time right now to make a difference for the women that are behind me right now. They have been courageous and fought through this whole thing. Whether you're a Republican or you're a Democrat, this one is an easy call. You're an American who cares about equal rights and equal protection under the law. If you care about these women, if you care about our country, and you care about this issue, this should pass with flying colors.
Now, it's going to be interesting. It'll be really interesting to see where this goes. From Brian Allen, major breaking: Epstein survivors just announced they will release their own list of names. We know who abused us. We saw who came and went. This list will be survivor-led for survivors. The government stalled. Now the victims are doing it themselves. Let's hear from one of them.
Transparency is justice. Release the files, end the secrecy, and stand with us in declaring that no one, no billionaires, no politicians, not world leaders, is above the law. And let me announce now, several of us Epstein survivors have been discussing creating our own list of names.
Uh-oh.
We know the names. Many of us were abused by them. Now together as survivors, we will confidentially compile the names we all know were regularly in the Epstein world. And it will be done by survivors and for survivors.
Yep, the government can't take all of them out.
Involved. Stay tuned for more details on that.
When though? When's it going to happen?
And so are the women who will come after us. That's right. Thank you.
Yeah, she's probably right. I bet a lot of people are going to try to come after him. Wow, man. It's getting heavy. It's getting crazy. All right, so we're going to move away from the Epstein survivors, the victims, and we're going to move over to this from Caroline Levitt. New ICE detention facility, Louisiana lockup, opens at a notorious prison. This is from foxnews.com. New ICE detention facility, Louisiana lockup, opens at a notorious prison. Angola prison, once named the bloodiest prison in the South, holds 51 migrants, dubbed the worst of the worst. Is it going to let me play this, or do I have to sign up, or what? What's up with this? Let's see if it'll let me play it.
Fox News exclusive.
Yeah, I think it will.
Notorious maximum security prison in the state of Louisiana will also double down as an ICE detention facility to hold the worst of the worst. That's a quote.
Down.
Brooke Taylor live with a preview of the soon-to-be-announced Louisiana lockup in Angola, Louisiana. Good morning there, Brooke.
Hi, Bill. Yeah, we are right outside the notorious Angola prison here in Louisiana. A section of this prison is going to be turned into an ICE detention facility, and it's going to be called Louisiana Lockup. Now, Fox is the first to report that 51 illegal migrants have already been moved here. Louisiana Lockup is going to hold up to 416 beds. The Department of Homeland Security says they've partnered with the state of Louisiana. They are using this unused section of the prison to detain and deport some of the worst illegal migrants. Now, Angola is the largest maximum security prison in the country. It was once named the bloodiest prison in the South for its harsh conditions in the 1960s. Louisiana Lockup is funded by the Big Beautiful Bill, which gave ICE an additional 80,000 detention beds to help ramp up deportations. DHS Secretary Kristi Noem sent us this statement, quote, "Thank you to Governor Landry for his partnership to help remove the worst of the worst out of our country. If you are in America illegally, you could find yourself in Seacott, Cornhusker Clink, Speedway Slammer, or Louisiana Lockup. Avoid arrest and self-deport now using the CBP Home app." And Louisiana Governor Jeff Landry said, quote, "Criminal illegal aliens beware. Louisiana Lockup is where your time in America ends. Louisiana Lockup will give ICE the space it needs to lock up some of the worst criminal illegal aliens." And DHS says they will be housing violent illegal migrants like these recently arrested by ICE New Orleans, including murderers, rapists, and traffickers. Take a look at this 22-year-old illegal migrant from Honduras, recently arrested in March. He had warrants for 394 counts of pornography involving juveniles and 2 counts of sexual abuse of an animal. Again, it is illegal migrants like that DHS says will end up here in the Louisiana Lockup. Later this afternoon, the DHS Secretary, Governor, and Attorney General Pam Bondi will be here to make this formal announcement. Bill.
Wow, man.
On that, Brooke,
because in the state of Florida,
Louisiana
pedophiles, they're eligible for the death penalty in the state of Florida. Of course, they're not in Florida, but still. Maybe they should transfer them over here and let us take care of business. From DOD Rapid Response, Secretary of Defense, the president has sent a very clear message to the cartels. We know who was in that boat, what they were doing, and who they represented, and that was Tren de Aragua. And that's in reference to that drug boat that was blasted by U.S. forces in the Caribbean Sea that killed 11 smugglers from Venezuela.
Put that video eviscerating, blowing up that boat coming across with all of the drugs on board. And the president said on social, let them on Truth Social, let them be on notice to anybody bringing drugs to the U.S. Beware. So the president is sending a message to other cartels, right?
A very clear one. I can tell you that was definitely not artificial intelligence.
I mean, look, they said that this boat was heading to the United States, and it was going from Venezuela. There's no way that boat was going to get all the way to the United States from Venezuela. Not with just like 3 of those engines or motors or whatever you want to call them. What are they, like outboard motors? I don't know. I don't know my boat lingo. But I'm sure one way or another the drugs were going to find their way into the U.S. I just wanted to make that point because they were saying that in a lot of headlines that this boat was bound for the U.S.
I watched it live. We knew exactly who was in that boat. We knew exactly what they were doing, and we knew exactly who they represented. And that was Tren de Aragua, a narco-terrorist organization designated by the United States trying to poison our country with illicit drugs. Last year, under the Biden administration, all 4 years, 100,000 Americans died from drug-related from drugs, from the use of drugs, many of which poured in from Central and South America through our southwest border. Now, we're sealing the border, But President Trump is willing to go on offense in ways that others have not been. And to send that clear signal to Tren de Aragua, Cartel del Sols, and others emanating from Venezuela, we're not going to allow this kind of activity. You're poisoning our people. We've got incredible assets, and they are gathering in the region. And so you want to try to traffic drugs, it's a new day. It's a different day. And so those 11 drug traffickers are no longer with us, sending a very clear signal that this is an activity the United States is not going to tolerate in our hemisphere.
Well, yeah, that's going to be interesting because I know this isn't going to be the last. They're going to try it time and time again. They're not just going to say, okay, well, I guess we're not going to send drugs to the United States anymore. So we're definitely going to end up seeing more of this playing out, I'm sure. Undersecretary of Defense Emil, what was his last name? Michael, hold on, let me get his name. Emil Michael, that's it, Undersecretary of Defense. And he says the Department of Defense must be AI first. In every new system, every decision, AI must lead the way. I don't agree with that at all. That sounds very Skynet-y. That's something that I would endorse. But, oh man, that is extremely quiet. All right, I'm going to max it out. Hold on. All right, I got the volume max. Why the hell is this so damn quiet? Okay, I'm not going to speak. So you can turn up the volume, and once it gets to the end, just reduce your volume, I suppose. But I'm going to max it out.
We have to be AI first in the department. That means every new thing we do, we have to think about how AI can be brought into it. Should AI be brought into it? How it should be brought into it? And how it will change the nature of what we do. And that includes building systems. If you're doing AI in the front end of designing a new weapons system, maybe you could predict fewer faults and fewer engineering challenges later on. So I think part of my job now having this organization is going to be pushing AI into every corner of the department where it could be useful.
Okay, turn the volume down. Turn down the volume. All right, I'm rolling back the volume. All right, I think we're good now. I thought about it for a second. I wasn't going to be a dick, but I was thinking about going, like just in the split second. I don't agree with this, though. Putting AI in front. Look, working with AI, I don't have any problem with that. I think AI could assist us in our day-to-day operations. I just don't actually think that we should be letting AI take the helm. Dude, like, AI is still brand new. It's only been out for a few years, and the government's probably only been working on it for what, maybe 1 or 2 years. And I just don't think that we're quite at the point where we should just be handing over large swaths of the government over to AI. Because who actually controls AI? Like these data centers and all that, there's got to be a company behind it in some way, shape, or form. Even though I'm sure the government's working on AI data centers of its own. However, the government doesn't tend to want, well, more so the people don't tend to want the government to be running things to that extent on their own. We prefer them to contract companies. That way the government doesn't get a little too big for its own britches. As far as like, that's why the government doesn't manufacture its own ammunitions and its own tanks and things of that nature. All right, so from JD Vance, if the media you consume told you that Donald Trump was on his deathbed because he didn't do a press conference for 3 days, imagine what else they're lying to you about. I didn't see that in the news. Did you catch that in the news? That they were suggesting that Trump was severely ill because he wasn't in front of the cameras for a few days? Maybe he just took a couple days off. Like George W. Bush, didn't he spend like 40% of his presidency on vacation or something? Or is that just bullshit leftist propaganda that I heard? No, it sounds like some Michael Moore bullshit. Joe Biden, I'm sure Joe Biden probably spent greater than 50% of his presidency not being presidential, just sitting around on the beach in fucking Delaware. All right, so this is from Dan Scavino, and this is Trump meeting with the president of Poland. So let's check this out.
Everybody close, everybody shut, everybody face forward. That's you.
Very happy to see each other. So let's check this out. Trump set up a flyby for the Polish president. This is cool. President Trump welcomes Polish President now Rockigan, I'm sure I'm butchering that, to the White House with a flyover paying tribute to fallen Polish fighter pilot Major Masaż Slab Krakowian. And here's the flyby that he set up for the Polish president. Yeah, that was cool. I'm assuming the one that flew ahead was probably like a memorial of the fallen fighter pilot who then shot up high up into the air. So that was cool. That was neat that he did that. All right, so let's head down to the next topic of brief discussion from Tom Emmer. The senseless tragedy at Annunciation Catholic School was carried out by a very broken and deranged individual. He is the unfortunate picture of the current mental health crisis we have in the U.S. that has been exacerbated by extreme Democrat policies. Yeah, and also Governor Tim Walz with the whole mental health crisis that some way or another he's making even worse in Minnesota, because that's exactly where this happened. We cannot allow it to go on. Let's check this out.
Last week, 2 innocent lives were taken at Annunciation Catholic School in Minneapolis. As a Minnesotan, a father, and Catholic, words cannot begin to describe the amount of heartbreak and anger we feel over this unspeakable act of evil. Our prayers continue to be with the victims, their families, and everyone who is impacted by this horrific event. We pray because, despite what some may say, prayer is powerful. Thank you to FBI Director Patel, Deputy Director Bongino, and to our local law enforcement for all their efforts. Thank you to President Trump for reaching out to Governor Walz to offer support and ordering that all flags be flown at half-staff.
Not that he probably took
in
it.
honor of the victims.
He should have.
And thank you to Vice President J.D. Vance for being in Minnesota today to pay his respects to the victims of
his wife was with them too,
and their families. They need to know that someone cares. This senseless tragedy was carried out by a very broken and deranged individual. He is the unfortunate picture of the current mental health crisis we have here in the United States.
Absolutely. Are you
a
listening,
mental health
Democrats?
crisis that has been normalized and exacerbated by extreme Democrat policies. We cannot allow any more innocent lives to be taken by someone who should have received help long before they had a chance to become violent.
Gender dysphoria.
Not to mention the far left anti-law enforcement policies of Tim Walz and Democrats in Minnesota that encourage crime. The way forward is to address the mental health crisis and empower law enforcement to crack down on crime, just as President Trump has done right here in our nation's capital.
And Democrats won't.
The American people elected our Republican trifecta with a mandate to restore law, order, and prosperity to our communities. And that is exactly what we have done over the last 7 months.
All right, how much you want to bet that the mainstream media, and look, I don't pay attention to the mainstream media. I just cover the swamp. I cover what the politicians, bureaucrats, the government's talking about. So I'm not reaching out into mainstream media typically, unless it's a really slow day. So I'm going off on a limb, and I'm assuming that the mainstream media, they're not really talking about this whole shooting situation in Minnesota anymore because it involved a transgender. And I mean, and they downplay it all. And there's been other accounts like Libs of TikTok. They've listed a fairly large number. It was like 10 different mass shootings that were committed by transgender individuals in just the last couple of years. And it is a mental health crisis. I mean, what is the attempted suicide rate for transgenders is what, like 50% or damn near 50% of all transgenders at some point in their life will at least attempt suicide. And on the other hand, they're demanding that we gender them whatever their preference is. Otherwise, they're essentially holding us emotionally hostage by saying, well, if you don't gender us properly, then we're just going to kill ourselves. I mean, that's basically what they're saying in so many words. And that's not something that we Christians agree with, because you're essentially asking us to commit a sin by doing so, because we don't want to lie, because that is a lie. Because you have a documented mental illness, a mental illness that's been documented probably for over a century at this point, and they really do need to get it under control. And we already know Democrats aren't going to do it. They're going to try to ignore it completely and just sweep it under the rug, and it's not a problem. We're not going to address this crisis, which it is. Look, if the average, or if transgenders, if they attempt suicide at some point in their life, the majority of them, or at least close to 50%, that's a mental health crisis. That's a serious mental health crisis. I don't know what the number is for the average, like the American population across the board who attempts suicide in his or her lifetime. What would it be, like maybe 2% or 5% of just everyday Americans? Statistically, it can't be anywhere near 40 or 50%, like not anywhere close to it. So I don't know, man. Hopefully it'll go somewhere. I highly doubt it will. I think Democrats are just going to ignore it and pretend that it never happened. In fact, the only thing that they're going to be talking about it is with regard to gun control. They're not going to say anything about the fact that it was a transgender who had a mental illness, who transitioned just a few years ago, and they were taking insane doses of hormones, and probably at some point may have started with puberty blockers, pumping themselves full of drugs that are not natural, and turn them into a fucking lunatic, a psychopath that ended up trying to kill as many children as possible. And it's sickening. All right, so anyway, this is from Secretary Doug Burgum. After years of restricting drilling, mining, and harvesting trees on federal land during the Biden administration, we are back to relying on the affordable, reliable power that we have right here in America. This one comes from the New York Post, and Interior Secretary Doug Burgum tells Pod Force One Biden punished Alaska more than Iran. And I would not be surprised by that. Looks like the video's loading. I don't know if it's... Oh, yeah, it is going to play. All right. Well, let's give this a play. Might save me a little bit of time if we just hear it from Secretary Burgum himself. Let me adjust the volume here a little bit. Hopefully it ain't going to be too crazy, but let's see.
We were under assault in North Dakota as an energy resource state under the Biden administration. By the time I left, we were engaged in over 30 different legal battles with the federal government.
Wow.
So I was feeling it. And I'd been chair of Western governors, and I knew that the other public land states that are large, Alaska had 68 executive orders by the Biden administration against it. We sanctioned Alaska, not we. The Biden administration sanctioned Alaska more than Iran.
Oh my God, dude, that's so fucked up, man. They're sanctioning Alaska more than Iran. And that might be part of the reason why housing is so damn expensive, because probably the cost of timber is so damn expensive. Because for some reason, they must believe that trees just don't grow back. That once we cut down a tree, that we plant, what is it, like 2 or 3 saplings in its place, and then in 40 or 50 years' time, it's going to be a full-grown tree once again. And that's what the timber industry has been doing for a long time. Of course, they're going to plant behind them. It's just like planting crops every year. You plant for the next season. Just like when you cut down a large tree, you plant trees behind it, so that way that they grow in 40, 50 years' time, and we can have wood into the future. So Interior Secretary Doug Burgum said on the latest episode of Pod Force One Out Now that the Biden administration crippled oil and natural gas producing regions in the U.S. through a flurry of executive actions, effectively sanctioning America more than Iran. And, okay, so I believe that he already said that quote in the video. Burgum added that as a member of the Western Governors Association, he got a clear sense of how Democratic administration's push to eliminate fossil fuels as a source of energy was harming states with large tracts of public land. Yeah, 100%. Alaska had 6. Okay, we did read that, or he said that. Supposedly under the Biden administration, there were sanctions on Iran and some sanctions on Russia, but Russia and Iran, the price of their oil went down 20%, and China bought it all. Good Lord, man. But anyway, there's just a little bit more of that article left over, but that's the gist of it. I mean, we basically got the point from that video clip. So this is from Caroline Levitt. Treasury Department releases official list of jobs eligible for no tax on tips deduction. And from foxbusiness.com, the official list of jobs eligible for no tax on tips deduction. The Treasury Department unveiled its list of jobs that will be covered by the Trump administration's no tax on tips policy under the One Big Beautiful Bill Act. President Donald Trump made no tax on tips a key pledge during his campaign last year and worked with Republican lawmakers to include a provision in OBBBA to address that promise. The law created a deduction of up to $25,000 for qualified tips received by tipped workers, which will be in place from 2025 through 2028 unless Congress acts to extend it. As part of the process, the Treasury Department was required to develop a list of eligible occupations who were customarily compensated with tipped income prior to the enactment of OBBBA. A source familiar with the process confirmed to Fox Business that the Treasury Department's review sorted more than 60 tipped jobs into 8 industry categories. Here's a list of those categories and professions that will be eligible for the deduction on tipped income. And this will be linked in the description if you want to check this out if you do get tips for a living. Beverage and food service, and that's the list: chefs, cooks, bartenders, wait staff, hosts at restaurants, food prep workers. Entertainment and events, with a whole host of different people, even like in the coat rooms, the locker rooms, hospitality and guest services, and home services, plumbers, electricians. Dude, even plumbers and electricians are not getting taxed on tips. I honestly wasn't aware that you were supposed to tip your electrician. I didn't know that. Personal services, that's another one. What if tattoo artists? That's another profession that they, yep, there it is right there. Tattoo artists and piercers. I was curious about that. Personal appearance and wellness, and recreation and instruction, golf caddies and further occupations, and transportation and delivery. Pretty much everybody, man. Anybody who gets a tip. So anybody you can think of that gets a tip with their income, they're not going to get taxed for it, and that is amazing. Financial Services GOP from 12 hours ago. Chairman Rep. French Hill on digital asset market structure legislation. Quote, the Clarity Act in the House, which I wrote, got 78 Democrat votes here in the House. We got such overwhelming support by Democrats and Republicans. I would hope that the Senate would consider taking up the Clarity Act in their process and simply making improvements to it.
Mr. Chairman, let me get your take on the digital assets legislation. You just mentioned the Genius and Clarity Acts. The Senate Banking Committee still discussing the framework for that Clarity Act. Senator Tim Scott chairs the committee, and he said that he believes there will be between 12 to 18 Democrats open to voting for a market structure on digital assets. How are you expecting this to play out?
Well, I've really enjoyed working with Kirsten Gillibrand and Cynthia Lummis, both who've been real leaders. Chairman Tim Scott in the Senate has put together a working group on the digital assets framework. The Clarity Act in the House, which I wrote, got 78 Democrat votes here in the House. Back in July, we sent that to the Senate with really a suspension level vote. We got such overwhelming support by Democrats and Republicans. I would hope that the Senate would consider taking up the Clarity Act in their process and simply making improvements to it. I think that would be a great approach. But Tim Scott and his working group and the leadership of Subcommittee Chair Lummis and John Bozeman on the Ag Committee, they all have this at a top priority, and I hope we can get this done in the next few weeks.
Let me get your take on what Larry Lindsay says about this, Mr. Chairman, because the Lindsay Group out with a report saying widespread crypto adoption is not without consequence. And the firm writes that the ramifications of the Federal Reserve losing its semi-monopoly status as the supplier of money has wide implications that are often not discussed. At the Kansas City Fed Jackson Hole Symposium that I was at last week with Christine Lagarde, a lot of people were talking about this, including Fed Governor Mickey Bowman. And Mickey Bowman said she called digital assets a seismic shift in the way we think about money, value, and the fabric of our financial system. She said that if the Fed is unable to adjust to this new technology, it will bypass the traditional banking system. What do you want to say to people who are worried that if the depositors flee to blockchain, the cheap source of bank funding disappears, and it has a real impact on the banks?
Well, I think banks will offer dollar-backed stable coins as a new payment rail through their corporate treasury functions for businesses, and they'll offer it to consumers that have a demand for it. It's not widely accepted at the point of sale. So I think that's a long-term thoughtful position to take and think about the risk of that. But I anticipate a dollar-backed payment stablecoin being used mostly for cross-border trade. They don't pay interest. It's not meant to be a bank. It's a payment rail, like we use credit, debit, we send wire transfers, we use cash. A dollar-backed payment stablecoin is simply a new payment method, not a complete change in trying to make a stablecoin and turn a bank. Plus, those stablecoin issuers have to keep their assets in a bank or in Treasury bills.
I love the idea, really, especially given what Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent has said, and that is that it becomes a major purchaser of short-term Treasury bills. As a result of all of that, what do you make of an ECB-run digital euro? I mean, Christine Lagarde told me she's working on this, even though there are lots of, upset over it because people think it's going to be a surveillance tool. But that also has downsides, right? Lack of financial freedom, privacy, surveillance issues, systemic risk, being European, all issues that, again, the Lindsay Group brings up.
I just met in Europe last week with the Bank for International Settlements in Basel. I also met with the financial regulators in Switzerland and in Germany, including a long meeting at the European Central Bank, the ECB, and listened to their presentation of what they're trying to propose for a retail CBDC in Europe. In other words, a digital euro.
Right.
I think in America, we've gone with the private sector. And in Europe, they're considering a government-driven process.
That's crazy,
and I really,
man.
I made the point in those meetings that I think a private sector solution is better, more effective, and responds to consumer choice. I'm not sure consumers will find a digital euro, as acceptable as a private sector alternative.
Yeah, and plus, I don't know how fast the stablecoin transfers, but my limited knowledge tells me that it takes 10 minutes for a transaction of Bitcoin to complete. So I don't think anybody's going to stand at the checkout counter and wait 10 freaking minutes for their Bitcoin to clear. But is this some way going to erase the national deficit? We're just going to toss the dollar aside and just adopt this new cryptocurrency that we're all going to start using on a daily basis? Is this really the end game scenario that they have planned out? I don't know. But I don't know. We'll see how it plays out. So from Secretary Chris Wright, electricity prices, they rose almost 30% under the Biden administration. It's part of the reason President Trump was elected. We're doing everything we can to build common sense projects to strengthen the electricity grid and lower prices for Americans. And over on the Democrat side, and I've shown it time and time again, they're constantly talking about how Trump is raising electricity prices because he's cutting out all of these Biden era renewable energy plans, like the big windmills, the turbines rather, that they've got off the coast of Rhode Island, and I think Delaware was the other one. And it was a multi-$100 million project that the Trump administration just canned, and they're blaming the Trump administration as to why our electricity is getting so expensive. But in fact, it was actually during the Biden administration, which we know because we all lived through it.
The president was able to rein in inflation after Joe Biden sent it to 40-year highs. But what about higher electricity bills? What can we do about this? And what do you want to say to people who are upset by some bills right now on utilities?
Well, electricity prices rose a lot, almost 30% under the Biden administration. It angered Americans. It's part of the reason President Trump was elected and won all of the swing states. That is a key challenge for us, though. Things move slowly in the electricity grid. All sorts of crazy projects were under construction and being built on your electricity grids over the last 4 years. We can't stop all of them. They're going to get finished. That extra expenditure goes into the rate base for the utility, and it pushes up your prices. But we're doing everything we can to build common sense things on those electricity grids and to build electricity in front of the AI demand. So we can both lead China in the race to lead AI, which is critical, and we can also stop the rise in electricity prices. In the next few years, I think we'll make enormous progress on that. But it's what I worry about most 7 days a week. We want to stop the rise in electricity for Americans and reshore jobs and opportunity here.
Yeah, and I mean, somebody made actually a good point. I'm not prepared to show it, but a few videos back, I did a video clip on energy, and somebody mentioned in the comments that most of these electrical projects that are coming up with regard to nuclear specifically, they're going to be used for private companies, private entities, AI infrastructure, and it's not going to find its way into everyday American homes, at least not the initial ones that they're planning to build and roll out. Hopefully in the coming years, we will start to see more of that happening. Like, they're already working on these small modular reactors that are eventually going to see these reactors being built in an assembly line like process. So they're going to be factory built nuclear reactors that they're going to be able to ship to different facilities. And some of them can produce up to 50 megawatts of electricity. That's a lot of electricity. I mean, it's got to be at least several or multiple neighborhoods worth of electricity. So I don't know if in the foreseeable future, maybe in the next 10, 15, 20 years, we might start to see electricity revolutionized to that extent, where we might start seeing small scale reactors in our local areas, which the left and the Democrats, they've done a pretty effective job of getting people scared of nuclear power. So I'm not sure if the American people will accept it in the short term, but perhaps in the coming years, we might eventually see that rolling out. And who knows, maybe 20, 30, 40 years from now, we might end up buying small modular nuclear reactors for our homes, like we buy like a water heater or a dishwasher or something. I don't know, but it looks like that Looks like times are really changing, especially with regard to nuclear energy. It looks like some wild ideas are coming out, and they've probably had this technology for many, many years. Anyway, from Lee Zeldin, major win. D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals backs Trump's EPA's move to terminate green slush fund that was riddled with self-dealing and conflicts of interest, unqualified recipients, and reduced agency oversight. And they've got some headlines from New York Times. The court hands a loss to groups seeking billions in frozen climate funds. Washington Post appeals court backs EPA action terminating billions in green bank grants. And Politico Pro judges say EPA can take back billions in climate grants. I don't believe he actually linked the article, but maybe he did. No, he actually didn't link the article. But anyway, I mean, according to Lee Zeldin, it was a big win that they're clawing back that money, or at least the DC Circuit of Appeals gave them the win. Oh wait, here, this might be it right here. The Biden EPA parked $20 billion at an outside bank to dole out to just 8 pass-through NGOs, including the infamous $2 billion for the Stacey Abrams-linked NGO that received only $100 in 2023. Where did all that money go? The Trump EPA has zero tolerance for any waste and abuse. Check out excerpts from the decision. Quote, the month before President Trump's inauguration, EPA modified the grant agreements with no apparent consideration from the grantees to make it more difficult for the government to terminate the grants. Nothing in the Inflation Reduction Act prevented EPA from taking care that the grant programs be faithfully executed. This preliminary injunction read EPA from carrying out basic executive functions to ensure the prudent and effective management of substantial public funds. The district court also ignored the government's evidence of mismanagement of the grant funds, such as damning Gold Bar's video, which further supports EPA's good faith in deciding to terminate the grants and recommit the funds with proper supervision and accountability. And finally, our jurisdiction, however, rests on law, not on the severity of the alleged wrongdoing claimed by the grantees and reported by the Washington Post, the New York Times, and Politico. And let's see. Yeah, so he does have an article, or no, actually not an article, but a massive DC Circuit Court win for the Trump EPA and taxpayers. After the Biden EPA set up the Greenhouse Gas Reduction Fund through self-dealing and conflicts of interest, unqualified recipients, and reduced agency oversight, I terminated these grants completely. And he's got this image here, looks like from the court decision. We conclude the district court abused its discretion in issuing the injunction. The grantees are not likely to succeed on the merits because their claims are essentially contractual, and therefore jurisdiction lies exclusively in the Court of Federal Claims. And while the district court had jurisdiction over the grantees' constitutional claim, that claim is meritless. Moreover, the equities strongly favor the government, which on behalf of the public must ensure the proper oversight and management of this multi-billion-dollar fund. Accordingly, we vacate the injunction. So I'm not exactly sure where the money's going to end up, but at least it's not going to end up in these big-ass fucking slush funds. All right, moving on to Secretary Brooke Rollins. 9 hours ago, so grateful to my cabinet colleagues for their game-changing partnership as we get closer to launching POTUS's vision for the golden age of rural prosperity. We start with a promise. Every American who chooses rural life should be able to do so with dignity, purpose, and opportunity. And she shares a thread. Rural America is growing again. After a decade of decline, population rose between 2020 and 23 as families left high-crime, lockdown-heavy cities. Rural areas aren't just safer, they're more affordable. Homeownership in rural areas have grown 73.2%, and in cities, 49.8%. And a lot of that had to do with remote work. A lot of people went to work from home, so they figured, well, hell, if I can work from home, I can live anywhere. So let's move to a small town where everything's still relatively dirt cheap. But much work remains. In 2023, 19% of rural Americans lacked fixed broadband versus just 4% in cities. Since 1990, the number of food retailers in rural counties decreased by 19%, and grocery stores in these areas decreased by 15%. From 2018 to 2022, private childcare establishments in rural areas, while in cities grew 6.8%, In 2015, 23 rural counties had no food retailers and 44 had 0 grocery stores. That's unacceptable. The Trump administration's USDA is committed to making sure small towns have the essentials to be the beating heart of American innovation, self-reliance, and hope. The One Big Beautiful Bill included the largest investment in rural America in history. The working family tax cuts, standing alone, go a long way to boost rural prosperity, resulting in higher take-home pay by an average of over $13,000, boosting reference prices for crops, a 19% increase for soybeans alone, and helping rural hospitals with $50 billion for the Rural Health Transformation Program. President Trump's cabinet is driving this vision for rural prosperity. Happy to host my colleagues at USDA to make this vision a reality. God bless America. There you go, man. Some good news for those living out in small towns or in rural America. I know I wouldn't mind doing that. Maybe in my elder years, I might end up leaving the big city and move into a smaller town. I certainly would like the peace and quiet because, like, when I was a little kid, I lived in a small farm town and very quiet and very peaceful. Not a lot going on. And it was kind of nice. Even from the perspective of a small kid, it was nice. So DOD rapid response. Secretary of Defense. I don't feel bad for Governor Pritzker. He should be welcoming support in outside efforts to come alongside him, just as the mayor of Washington has. Folks in Chicago and Illinois deserve to live peacefully.
That the president is begging me to call him. He said it's been a really difficult 10 days. Lawrence was saying, I've been covering this for years. It's been more than 10 days. And I refuse to play a reality game with Donald Trump again.
It's been a tough 10 days for the governor. What about the people that live in Chicago? What about the folks that live with unending violence right in their backyard with an incompetent government and mayor and governor who are unwilling to provide just basic security? So I don't feel bad for Governor Pritzker. He should be welcoming support. He should be welcoming outside efforts to come alongside him, just as, frankly, the mayor of Washington mostly has. So he's playing a shell game. It's a charade. He knows that his city's out of control. It's the president's decision when on Chicago and what the scale looks like. But the folks in Chicago, folks in Illinois, deserve to live peacefully like everywhere else. Unfortunately, they have dysfunctional leaders.
And Mr. Secretary,
they absolutely do. And didn't Pete Hegseth used to be a regular on Fox and Friends? I don't know. I didn't watch Fox News on a regular basis, but I don't know. Memory seems to tell me that he was, but maybe I'm wrong. Anyway, so from the White House, our message to Americans in Democrat-run cities: decline is a choice. Leaders in Democratic cities have been failing for decades. It does not have to be this way. Every American deserves to feel safe. Now, this is a Chicago crime map from just the last 2 weeks. Look at all those gun symbols. Lots of firearms, lots of shootings, lots and lots and lots of shootings. And I'm not familiar with the fist. Oh, wait. Yeah, here we go. So homicide, sexual assault, robbery, aggravated assault, aggravated battery. I'm trying to look at it closely. It looks like, okay. Yeah, it looks like aggravated assault might be one of the more popular ones. And also, what's the other one? Let's see. I think it's robbery. I'm looking at, yeah, I think the little ski mask symbols, those are all over the place too. So yeah, that's just in 2 weeks. And it's not just like in inner city Chicago. I mean, this is like greater Chicago, man. Crazy. Oh, but there's no crime happening here. We don't need any help. Everything's perfectly fine here in Chicago. All right, so from Secretary Sean Duffy, free buses for everyone sounds great in a speech, but it will make matters worse in reality. MTAs, what's MTA? MTA, we move the region that moves the world. Download our apps. Okay, so it's MTA and train time. Okay, so what, a private company like Metro Transit Authority or something? Mismanagement has created a multi-billion-dollar budget shortfall. Proposals like this will lead to federal agencies like U.S. Department of Transportation using your tax dollars to fund pet projects. We should focus on making transit safe, clean, and efficient, not socialist bumper stickers. And he's responding to Western Lensman. De Blasio touts Mamdani's proposals, says free buses are proven to work in many parts of the country. Scarborough says where? So, dude, this is crazy, man. Joe Scarborough, he's actually starting to get relatively based, and I can't believe in my entire lifetime I would ever fucking say that about Joe Scarborough.
Free buses. And who
let's
runs
take a look.
The city of New York runs it just like we run so many other services. And the bottom line here is to think about the free buses again. Free buses has been proven to work in many parts of the country.
Where? It's
Venezuela, maybe.
Get your list of cities. But the bottom line is, it is something that allows people to, one, reduce their costs, which people are overwhelmed by, to get into mass transit more. It works because we know that if people are given a quality alternative they can afford, they'll use it.
I don't know, man. Joe Scarborough, he's had a couple of bangers in the last week or so. It's quite interesting to see that. So from Attorney General Pamela Bondi, 92 arrests last night and 27 illegal firearms were seized in Washington, D.C. Arrests include 2 homicide suspects and 5 arrests for assault against law enforcement. DEA HQ, FBI, and D.C. Police Department also executed warrants and seized a pill press and 2 kilograms of narcotics. Now we're up to 1,761 arrests in D.C. and almost 200 illegal guns seized as of today, September 3rd, 2025. And this comes from House Democrats. Trump and Republicans are turning their backs on the American public. They promised to lower the cost of living on day one, but their big ugly law actually raises the cost of healthcare and utilities. There it is, utilities. No, that's actually not true. It was this renewable energy pet project bullshit that caused everything to go up in cost with regard to electricity, not to mention all the illegal immigrants that flooded into the country by the tens of millions. And they got to get electricity from somewhere. They all got to live somewhere. So when you have this huge influx of human beings flooding into the country, it's kind of taxing on our grid. And this comes from Senate Republicans. Senate Republicans are on the verge of passing the National Defense Authorization Act. This will rebuild and reform our military in critical areas such as Golden Dome funding, streamline acquisitions process, and expands air and sea power. So there you go. And from the New York Post, missing minute from Jeffrey Epstein's prison cell on the night of his death is shown in newly released video. Do you believe it? I'm not so sure I believe it. I mean, there's many amazing things that AI can do and what editing in 2025 can do, but I suppose we'll take a look at this and we'll see if it's really legit. I haven't really heard this from anywhere else, but the New York Post, I mean, they're reporting on it. So let me see if I can get this to play. Yeah, here we go. I'm assuming there's no sound. No, there's no sound. That's all right. I got a little bit of background music going on. I don't know if you can hear it or not. It's kind of jazzy. Link in the description if you want to listen to my background music. All right, so I don't want to skip it, obviously. I just want to let it play out as it is. It's a little more than 1 minute, though. 2 minutes and 46 seconds. 160 degrees southwest, 2,80. I don't know. I'm not familiar with CCTV lingo. But this was on August the 9th of 2019 at precisely midnight. Man, that's creepy. At exactly midnight. Keep it very well lit. Here, man, might as well crank up the music a little bit. There you go. Enjoy some music while you watch this. And watch, like, absolutely nothing's gonna happen. Nobody's gonna show up, because I think if anybody did actually show up and like walk through the door, I think that would be absolute sensational news. It would be talked about all over the place. Turns out police did go into, or somebody went into Jeffrey Epstein's cell after all. So apparently this is proving that nobody killed Jeffrey Epstein, that he actually did take himself out. I guess. I don't know. I mean, what's to say that somebody didn't just take this footage and edit the timestamps down there at the bottom, and this is more or less just a frozen image that they just let a ticker run on the bottom of the screen. I think I might see a little bit of movement up in this area, but not really. I mean, who's to say they didn't do that? They could have just taken like a 5-second cut from the video and just recycled the same 5 seconds over and over again and called it a 2.5 minute video. Oh, there's somebody. Oh, is he walking? Uh-oh. We have action. We got movement. What's the position? Coming on from the left. Uh-oh. Picking up the phone. Putting down the phone. I'm assuming you keep it locked, man. Is he the Epstein killer? I have my suspicions. How much more time? Oh, of course it's gonna end now. Of course it is. So what happens? Oh, come on. You gonna leave us on that cliffhanger? All right. I guess nothing to see here. That's probably what everybody's gonna say. Any of the officials who are trying to cover up what really happened to Jeffrey Epstein. But newly released surveillance video from outside Jeffrey Epstein's New York prison cell the night of his suicide now shows the so-called missing minute that fueled conspiracy theories about the pedophile's death, contradicting the explanation from President Trump's Department of Justice. The surveillance clip was among the more than 33,000 pages of documents and videos tied to Epstein's sex trafficking probe that were released by the House Oversight Committee late on Tuesday. 33,000, that's a very interesting and specific number. Isn't that the number of emails that they confiscated from Hillary's private email server? In the Justice Department's initial dump of Epstein files, an 11-hour recording from outside Epstein's cell block at the Metropolitan Correctional Center the night he killed himself in 2019 had a minute missing just before midnight. Security camera footage with a timestamp of 23:59:59 on August 9th of 2019 outside Jeffrey Epstein's jail cell in his Manhattan prison block. I mean, they're just showing stills of what we already saw. Critics were quick to suggest that the missing footage, which lasted between 11:58:59 p.m. August 9th and midnight August 10th, showed there was some type of political cover-up tied to Epstein's death. At the time, Attorney General Pamela Bondi dismissed concerns of a wider conspiracy, insisting that the last minute of footage is deleted each night by the Bureau of Prisons as the cameras reset. So this was doctored then. So they probably did exactly what I said. They probably took like 5 seconds of footage and they just looped it for like 2 full minutes, and then they had to put in like just after midnight where the dude like walked up and checked out Epstein. That's what it sounds to me. I don't know, man. I don't know. Maybe that's too conspiratorial for me to say, but that'll be linked in the description if you want to check that out. And from Pete Hegseth, good riddance. Promotions across Department of Defense will only be based on merit and performance. And this is from Military Times. Army cancels Biden-era promotion program aimed at eliminating bias. I'm not sure if he's got a link to it. If he does, I'll link it. If not, I'm not seeing one. But if you go to militarytimes.com, I'm sure it'll be quite easy to find. Written by Zeta Ballinger Fletcher, September 2nd, 6:22 p.m. That should be really easy to find. And going to the White House, the big question to be answered is whether or not President Xi of China will mention the massive amount of support and blood that the United States of America gave to China in order to help it to secure its freedom from a very unfriendly foreign invader, President Trump. This was posted yesterday, 9:31 p.m. When I started this video, it had not been 24 hours, but now it technically officially is over 24 hours old. But when I started it, it wasn't. I don't think that I have a larger image of this, but I'll read it. The big question to be answered is whether or not President Xi of China will mention the massive amount of support and blood that the United States of America gave to China in order to help it to secure its freedom from a very unfriendly foreign invader. Many Americans died in China's quest for victory and glory. I hope that they are rightfully honored and remembered for their bravery and sacrifice. May President Xi and wonderful people of China have a great and lasting day of celebration. Please give my warmest regards to Vladimir Putin and Kim Jong-un as you conspire against the United States of America. President Donald J. Trump. Holy shit, man. Talk about passive aggressive. Wow, that was a banger. I wonder if they actually read it. So from the GOP, former Illinois Governor Rod Blagojevich, I can't even say his last name. Can you tell I've never lived in Illinois? On crime in Chicago, there's an emergency now. We just came out of the most violent weekend in Chicago this year. The immediacy of the emergency requires action. And again, this is technically over 24 hours old, but it wasn't when I started tonight's episode. So we'll give this a look.
Well, there's an emergency now. It's happening now that people are getting shot up and killed. We just came out of the most violent weekend in Chicago
he was governor right now.
And the immediacy of the
of course, he'd probably take a different stance if he was.
Action. It'll take time to be able to get more police officers trained, more police officers hired. In fact, there's a shortage of police officers because a lot of them don't want to work as police officers because they feel like Democratic mayors and Democratic governors no longer have their backs.
They don't. They absolutely don't. They did defund the police, for fuck's sakes. Plus, they were trying to force them to get COVID injections and COVID shots of boosters when a lot of them didn't freaking want it. A lot of people didn't want it, but they were forced to get it anyway, or else they were going to risk losing their jobs, if not more than that. So from RNC Research, former Illinois Governor Rod Blagojevich, and I really want to know how to say his name. torches J.B. Pritzker for failing to protect black families from crime in Chicago. There's a racist quality to him because this would never be tolerated in the neighborhoods where white people live. Whoa.
J.B. Pritzker is the biggest hypocrite in American history.
Oh, wow.
And there's a racist quality to him because this would never be tolerated in the neighborhoods where white people live. I live in a predominantly white neighborhood. Some Latino families, some African Americans, but for the most part, predominantly white. We don't have the same concerns here with gun violence and gangbangers like is happening in the south side of Chicago. And, you know, 9 people were shot. I've got updated numbers. 9 people died. 61 were shot this week.
Yeah, see, they don't want the help from the federal government. They don't want the police to do anything because I'm sure as these racist Democrats would probably put it behind closed doors. Let them take each other out. Let them just solve the problem themselves.
And there were 2 mass shootings where
just
7
unbelievably
people were shot,
fucked up.
Another mass shooting where 4 were shot, and that drive-by shooting where another 4 were shot. And there was a case where a 17-year-old girl is sitting in her home on the south side of Chicago, minding her own business, enjoying a weekend night, and somebody was shooting at somebody, and a bullet went through the window and shot her in the leg. In the same neighborhood, another guy was walking the streets, and he got caught up in a crossfire. And he got shot in the leg. Fortunately, neither one of them were killed. But these are the conditions that black people in Chicago are facing every single day. And when J.B. Pritzker can call out the National Guard, like he did last August, a year ago, to protect Democratic donors and Democratic delegates at the Democratic National Convention, he ought to do it to protect black people in Chicago.
What the fuck? They actually did that? They called out the National Guard to protect the fucking elites in Chicago? What the hell, man? That is absolutely fucking bonkers, dude. It is unbelievably crazy. Unbelievably crazy. All right, so that's going to be it. Obviously, can you tell that I'm trying to cue the exit music? And I believe that I got it. I don't know. I tried to adjust the volume, but I don't want to make it too loud. I hope it's not too loud. Anyway, all right, so that's going to be it for tonight. I'm going to take all those links, put them down in the description, as I said a billion times. So they'll be down there if you want to check out the reading material from tonight's episode. And if you enjoyed the video, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. It would really mean a lot to me if you do. And I'll drop a new show every evening, Monday through Friday, covering the swamp and everyone living in it, the politicians, bureaucrats, agencies, and everything else. And I also post daily episodes over on X too, so feel free to comment over there too if you'd like. And thank you very much for watching. I hope you have a great rest of your night, and God bless America.